the House of Commons Standing Committee on Public Accounts.
Pursuant to the standing orders, members are attending in person in the room and remotely using the Zoom application. A reminder that all comments should be addressed through the chair. Et conformément à l'article 108.3
Pursuant to Standing Order 1083, the committee resumed consideration of Report 1, Arrive Can, referred to the committee on Monday, February 12, 2024.
Our witness, Mr. Mark Weber, National President of the Customs and Immigration Union, and welcome back. I appreciate you being able to accommodate us so quickly, and thank you for joining us once again.
Chair?
Yes. Chair? Is this a point of order, Ms. Yip?
Yes, it's a point of order. We've had 6 meetings already on the Arrive Can report from the Auditor General, and we're going to have 9 by the end of the week. But we've yet to see a work plan or witness list. I would really appreciate it if you could distribute the work plan and witness list.
Sure, Ms. Yip. You have what I have to date, and if you'd like to get in touch with me after, we can certainly talk about that. I'm already planning for the Monday or Tuesday when we return with the Auditor General's next reports coming as well. It's one reason why we're meeting this week is because of those upcoming reports. There'll be more work for us to do. But you have everything I have at this point, Ms. Yip.
On the same point of order, Chair?
Sure. These are not points of orders, but go ahead, Ms. Khalid.
Well, perhaps it's a point of clarification. As we are working quite tirelessly under your leadership in this committee, Chair, it's easier for us to know what we're planning for and to know what the ultimate conclusion is as well for us to decide. And quite frankly, I haven't seen any opportunity for Liberals to provide witnesses either. And I would like to be given that opportunity because I think that just as much as you are concerned, Chair, we are concerned as well, and we would like to have witnesses presented on this as well.
All right. Well, Ms. Yip is the Vice Chair, so Ms. Yip, why don't you get in touch with me right after this meeting? You can lay out your concerns, and we can discuss witness lists. All right. I'm going to turn now back to Mr. Weber. You provided us with opening remarks the other day. We don't need you to repeat those. We've heard them, and we have copies. So I'm going to go directly to questions. I'm going to begin with Ms. Block, who will have the floor for 6 minutes, please. Over to you, Ms. Block.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you for joining us today, Mr. Weber. I'm not usually a member on this committee, but certainly am very much interested in the issue around the Arrive Can app. And I believe you appeared at the committee that I do sit on as a permanent member, the Government Operations and Estimates Committee. That was quite a long time ago, almost 18 months, when you appeared at OGO. And I was reflecting on your opening statement at that time and have had a chance to look at the one you made here at PACP, and I would say your sentiments haven't really changed too much, although we've learned an awful lot, given some of the investigations that have taken place, the Auditor General, the Procurement Ombuds, and others. And so I guess I'm probably going to reflect a little bit more on what we heard in OGO. And I think it would be fair to say that the development of the Arrive Can app is and has been and continues to be riddled with misconduct and mismanagement. And during your previous testimony at the Government Operations Committee, you stated that the government did not consult with frontline workers. And you stated, and I'll quote, not when the idea was first proposed, not when the app was initially developed, and definitely not at any point during one of the more than 70 updates that the app had to undergo. And that's that, end quote. So can you provide for this committee, if the government wasn't developing this app to assist frontline workers and to keep our borders safe, can you provide any sort of comment on what you believe the point of this app was?
Thank you for the question. I think to answer the question at large, the app and its development long-term, we believe that the goal of the app is to replace officers. Specifically, the result of that is that it makes our borders less secure. It eliminates interactions that our officers have with travelers. We've seen comments from the CBSA in the media. We've seen promotional videos and such, with examples such as a traveler driving up to the border and flashing their phone at a screen, and the gate opens and they drive through, and the tagline is something to the effect of, "I can't believe I just cleared customs." And when you think about what that actually means, I don't know if the agency is waiting for a smuggler or someone trying to bring something into Canada that we don't want to come in to self-declare. It's never going to happen, right? I hear this from our frontline officers daily. Even though we are in the midst of contract negotiations, we've been working under an expired contract for almost 2 years, and obviously pay benefits. All those things are part of their concerns. One of their main concerns remains border security. Every day they see it being eroded. It's concerning for all Canadians. It's very difficult circumstances for our members to be working in.
Thank you very much. During that same testimony, you called ArriveCan, and I'll quote, "one example in a long line of far-reaching technological Band-Aid solutions in search of a problem, solutions that ultimately fail to enhance border security and effectiveness in any real way." I think that was an apt description for this app, as it is largely no longer in use. Instead, there has been a return to the status quo, and that app, which cost at least $60 million and counting, according to the Auditor General, is simply, I would say, collecting dust. How would that $60 million have effectively increased the efficacy of border officers if it was instead invested in hiring more officers and used to purchase X-ray machines? I think you made that observation last week as well, and boats for the border services. Do you think it would have been a better, longer-lasting effect on border security and for our officers?
Absolutely. Our estimates are they could have hired approximately 600 officers with that. 600 is above the number that we're able to graduate each year to become officers. Given that we're short between 2,000 and 3,000 nationwide, 600 officers would have been a big help. And of course, an officer, unlike a machine, can do interdiction, can do enforcement, can do the things that we're really there for. An app cannot do any of that.
Thank you. You also mentioned that the ArriveCan app actually created issues for frontline officers and made their job more difficult. And you testified that the implementation of the app turned frontline officers into IT consultants rather than border officers. And while we've seen that this career change may have been very lucrative under this government, it certainly doesn't help us to maintain safe and secure borders, as we have seen over the last couple of years. So can you describe for us how it actually made life more difficult for our frontline officers?
I mean, given that it was made mandatory, our officers spent almost all of their time helping people complete the app. We had ports with no Wi-Fi. We had people coming into the office having to print it out and do it. We had travelers who refused to do it, travelers who didn't know how to do it, travelers who didn't have smartphones. All of these things that were very obvious to the officers working the front line that would not work. But again, we weren't consulted in the development. No one asked anyone working at the border how this would work at the border.
So we know that the app still exists. People have the option to use it. Given what you've shared with us today, do you think it is prudent for the CBSA to continue to fund this project or this app while ignoring the pressing issues facing our frontline officers?
I think funding always has to go first and foremost to officers, especially with the deficit that we have in frontline staff. Again, we're not dinosaurs. We know that technology has its uses, but it has to be there to assist officers. If the idea is that technology replaces officers, that's a big concern security-wise for all Canadians.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Turning now to Ms. Yip, you have the floor for up to 6 minutes, please.
Thank you. Thank you for returning back as a witness. Can you please tell us what you have heard from your union members in terms of how ArriveCan provided efficiencies to the previous paper-based system?
Thank you. In terms of the information that we needed for our purposes for customs officers, really all we needed was to be able to verify that the person was vaccinated, which everyone was able to do simply by showing us their vaccination on their phone or a printed out copy. All of the other information that ArriveCan had us made mandatory for us to acquire wasn't for us. That was for the Public Health Agency of Canada. So for us, it seemed like we were spending our time collecting information for others that in large part we don't know or don't think was used. Questions such as what hotel will you be staying at? What's the address of where you're going to be staying? As far as I know, no one verified where anyone was staying. You know, the hundreds of hours that our officers spent helping people collect this information at the border, we don't believe was really used at all.
So do you feel that this allowed officers to perhaps focus more on specialized tasks at all?
No, again, the majority of our officers' time during COVID was helping people complete the app, making sure they completed the app. One of the bigger issues we had was that we're not considered peace officers under the Quarantine Act either, which is something I'm hoping is looked into before. I mean, ideally, we don't have another pandemic, but I think it would be naive to think there isn't going to be one. Is something we absolutely do need as frontline officers who are, you know, stopping people at the border from coming in when they are sick.
So peace officers, could you talk a bit more about that?
Specifically under the Quarantine Act, or in general, did you mean?
Both.
Peace officers, we are peace officers. We're just not considered peace officers specifically under the Quarantine Act. So if someone presents to us and is visibly ill, which is one of the things we're supposed to look at as officers at the border, we don't have any legal authority to detain them. All we can really do is call the police, call the Public Health Agency. Sometimes we'll get someone on the phone. If there's someone available, another agency will show up to deal with the traveler. But really, we have no ability to stop that person at the border currently with the powers that we have under the Quarantine Act.
Do you believe we should go back to a paper-based system?
Paper-based specifically for gathering COVID-related information, or do you mean in general for customs purposes?
In general.
In general, there's uses to that. There's uses to an automated system. One of the uses an app like ArriveCan we can see being worthwhile is if people could do their declaration on the ArriveCan app, and that would be there for the officer to look at when the traveler presents themselves to the officer. That would be useful. Right now, the difficulty that we're seeing with it, though, is that the ArriveCan app and other technologies they have at airports, such as pick machines, are being used to entirely replace the officer, where you're depending on travelers to, I guess, hopefully self-declare if they're planning on bringing something in that we don't want to get in.
So you feel there's still value in using the app and seeing an officer?
Yeah, again, technologies are useful as long as there is that interaction with the officer and there's an officer there. Yes, we're open to any technologies that could help. Right now, what ArriveCan is being used for, and as it's being used, is not useful in terms of our border processes or keeping Canadians safe.
Do you think that going back to a paper-based system would, well, I think you did kind of answer this question, to reduce wait times at the border crossings and airports?
It could. Again, to reduce wait times, you need people at border crossings and airports. That's the main thing you could do. There's nothing that's as efficient or secure as a properly staffed border. We see this at airports with the introduction of pick machines, which have now largely replaced officers. The idea was that it would speed up the process, and now we see the same lineups are longer, waiting to deal with a pick machine rather than an officer. So if the technology is used with an officer, there's usefulness to it. If not, we really don't see the point.
Okay. Well, thank you. I'd like to put forward a motion at this point that, given the grave concerns surrounding the CEO of Dalian and former 2021 People's Party of Canada candidate David Yeo, the committee hold one meeting and call first the Deputy Minister of National Defence, Bill Matthews, 2, the Assistant Deputy Minister, Material